When it comes to the challenges of entering the United States illegally, and the tough life that follows release from immigration detention, many Chinese migrants see Germany as a far better option in Europe. The journey is less dangerous, and crucially, Germany's welfare policies for refugees offer a more comfortable life. Welcome to Red Eastern True Crime. If you want to hear more stories like this, please like the video. Let's dive into the story. In our previous video, we explored why Chinese migrants choose to enter the US illegally, detailing different routes and the experiences they face. This episode shifts the focus to another major destination for Chinese migrants, Germany. A detailed guide to smuggling oneself into Germany as a refugee has emerged on social media, taking advantage of the fact that Chinese passport holders can enter Serbia and Bosnia without a visa. Step 1. Raise 30,000 RMB, about 3,800 euros. Obtain a passport and travel permit for Hong Kong and Macau, and then apply for a Hong Kong visa. Although Hong Kong has been part of China for over 2 decades, individuals from mainland China still need to obtain the appropriate permits to enter Hong Kong or Macau. Step 2. Buy a ticket from Hong Kong to Bangkok, Thailand. Then travel to the Shenzhen border. Enter Hong Kong with your travel permit. Take a bus to Hong Kong airport and exchange your passport and return ticket for a boarding pass. Use your travel permit to enter the departure lounge, but board the plane with your passport and boarding pass. This tactic is used to avoid airport staff who may prevent you from boarding. Step 3. Once in Thailand, buy a ticket from Bangkok to Belgrade, the capital of Serbia. It's important to be aware of a German policy called tolerated residence, a temporary residence permit for refugees whose asylum applications have been rejected, but who cannot be deported for various reasons. This policy allows rejected asylum seekers to live in Germany. Step 4. After arriving in Serbia, secure accommodation in a guest house and travel by bus with other Chinese nationals without visas to the border town of Bihać in Bosnia. Step 5. At the border, find Middle Eastern refugees. Use Google Translate to communicate with them and travel to a contact point at the Croatian border. Once in Croatia, transit to a refugee camp in Slovenia, paying a Middle Eastern vendor 1,000 euros for the service. Step 6. From Slovenia, take the train to Italy. If you run out of money in Italy, work in Chinese-owned restaurants, supermarkets, or warehouses, earning around 1,600 euros a month, including free food and accommodation. After a break, head to France and then Germany. If you are stopped by French police on the way, you could spend 3 days in jail, but then continue on to Germany. Step 7. On arrival in Germany, apply for asylum with the police, enter a refugee camp and have your fingerprints taken. Submit your passport for a medical examination and be given accommodation, usually including food, shelter, and free medical care. You'll wait 3 months for a scheduled asylum interview. If you pass, you'll be granted formal residency status on the spot. If not, you can reapply later. Step 8. Generally, Chinese citizens without strong evidence of persecution are not granted asylum and are redistributed to smaller refugee camps, where they are provided with free single or double rooms. They usually receive around 480 euros a month for living expenses, and if furniture or appliances in their accommodation are broken, the government will replace them free of charge. Utilities such as water, electricity, and internet are also free. After waiting 2 years, they're given a court date to apply for tolerated residence. Step 9. Once you have been granted tolerated residence in Germany, you can move freely around the country while you wait for a general amnesty from the government, which would grant you formal resident status. Until then, you can work for cash without paying taxes, live in a refugee apartment for free, receive 480 euros a month for living expenses, and enjoy free health care. Children can attend school for free, and each additional family member increases the monthly allowance by several hundred euros, allowing a normal life while learning German and integrating into society. The key takeaway from this guide is that while it is difficult for Chinese migrants to secure legal residency in Germany through asylum, they can still live there and benefit from various social services. Online discussions have reached a consensus. Those who want to work hard and earn a substantial income should go to the United States. But for a more manageable life, Germany is the preferred choice. Recently, a Chinese YouTuber interviewed a young man who successfully smuggled himself into Germany, and the video has received 120,000 views. Let's take a look at his experiences and perspectives. The interviewee, called Lee, is 22 years old and arrived in Germany in May 2023. Before his trip, he used a VPN to access YouTube from mainland China and found videos detailing how Chinese people moved to Germany as refugees, highlighting the favorable social benefits. After verifying this information on Twitter, he decided to make the journey alone, despite opposition from his family and friends. At the time, there were no specific guides available online, so he had to make his own way. Once in Serbia, he quickly caught a bus to Bosnia, then traveled through Croatia, Slovenia, Italy, Austria, and France before finally reaching Germany. His entry into Croatia was already illegal. He took a bus from a small town near Velika Kladuša in Bosnia to Karlovac in Croatia. Because he did not have a legal visa, he could not take the bus and had to walk to his next destination, the Croatian capital, Zagreb. This walk proved to be the most difficult part of his journey. Unable to travel by bus, he risked being reported by locals and had to avoid police checkpoints, which led him to take very obscure paths. Unfortunately, Lee was caught twice by Croatian police and sent back to the Croatian-Bosnian border. On one occasion, he was just 5 kilometers from Zagreb when he was deported. He had to find a small motel to rest before setting off again the next day. After arriving in Zagreb, Lee took a bus directly to the Slovenian border, as there are generally fewer visa checks in larger cities, minimizing his walking time. He then took a bus to Ljubljana, the Slovenian capital, and a train to Italy. In Austria, however, he was picked up by the police 3 times and sent back to Italy each time. Whenever he was alone on the motorway, the Austrian police soon showed up. After 3 deportations from Austria back to Italy, Lee felt discouraged, and the 800 euros he had brought with him from China was almost gone. He worked in a local Chinese restaurant in Italy for 15 days, earning about 500 euros in cash at a rate of 13 euros an hour, before continuing his journey. Given his previous deportations from Austria, he chose to travel through France, where he faced no obstacles and quickly reached Germany. The whole journey from Bosnia to Germany took only 15 days, not counting the time spent working. Lee openly admitted that Croatia and Austria were the most difficult countries he had encountered. When he asked the Croatian authorities how they had found him, they revealed that they had spotted him with a drone, while the Austrian police mentioned that they had tracked him via satellite. In contrast, he found Slovenia, Italy, and France much easier to navigate. Lee pointed out that his route was the most economical he could devise, while others paid smugglers around 8,000 euros to transport them from Bosnia to Germany. He later realized he should have taken a direct route through France, which would have been quicker and easier, but he had no one to tell him at the time. When he arrived in Germany, Lee went straight to the police station to apply for asylum. The police treated him to a meal, then bought him a ticket and told him to take a bus to a refugee camp. At the camp, staff helped him with the paperwork and fingerprinting. Germany's refugee camps are categorized into large, medium, and small facilities. Lee spent a month in a large camp before moving to a medium camp for 3 months, where he shared a room with about 7 other people. Finally, he was placed in a small camp, which is more like an apartment. He has lived there for over 6 months in a 2-person room, fully equipped for cooking and with laundry facilities. The bathroom is shared with 2 other rooms, and the toilets and common areas are regularly cleaned by cleaning staff. The heating in his room is quite comfortable, and all utilities, including water, electricity, and internet, are free, with a pleasant view outside. Lee's roommate is a Turkish national. Lee noted that residents who don't live in government-assigned housing are free to find their own accommodation, with the government providing rent subsidies. He added that if he had arrived 3 years earlier, single-room occupancy would have been the norm. He receives about €460 a month from the German government, which rises to €560 if he is granted asylum. Families can be allocated a whole house with 3 or 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Shortly after arriving in the large camp, Lee found a job that paid €1,000 a month without tax deductions. After a few months of resting in the medium camp, he secured a full-time job labeling products in a warehouse owned by a Chinese employer. However, he chose not to apply for formal worker status to avoid paying taxes, which would have disqualified him from the €460 monthly allowance and required him to pay €100 in rent plus utilities. Currently, Lee earns €13 an hour in the warehouse, working 7.5 hours a day on a 4-on, 3-off schedule, which brings him about €1,500 a month. With government support, his total income is close to €2,000. His employer does not require him to work overtime, as he values his free time and quality of life, a stark contrast to the work culture in mainland China. Most asylum seekers in Germany, including Lee's Turkish roommate, have worked illegally for a long time. Their chances of success in the asylum process are much higher, often without the need for legal representation. Conversely, Chinese asylum seekers in Germany face a failure rate of around 90%, regardless of whether they hire a lawyer, unless they can prove actual persecution in their home country. However, having a stable job and paying taxes can be an advantage in obtaining residency status. Lee mentioned that the owner of a Chinese restaurant, where he once worked, was undocumented in Germany for over a decade. After several years of paying taxes legally, he successfully obtained residency and is now a permanent resident, allowing him to return to China without fear of being denied re-entry to Europe. Lee openly expressed his intention to continue working illegally and enjoying life. Recently, more and more people from China have been moving to Germany, especially to North Rhine-Westphalia. In the past, newly advertised jobs remained available for several days, but now they are filled within hours. When asked why he hadn't applied for asylum in Croatia, Slovenia, Italy, or France, despite having passed through those countries, Lee explained that their welfare systems were lacking, offering lower payments and poorer living conditions and health care than Germany or the Netherlands. He told the story of a friend, also a refugee in Germany, who injured his hand while working in a restaurant. After being taken to the hospital by ambulance, he was operated on within 6 hours, with all costs, including the operation, hospital stay, and subsequent medication, fully covered. The quality of care was much better than he had experienced in mainland China. Lee noted that as long as you're human, you can apply for refugee status on arrival in Germany, which is a far better option than trying to smuggle yourself into the US. He pointed out that many people in America end up sleeping in tents on the streets due to unaffordable rent, as the US government provides no housing or cash assistance, only food, which often consists of expired items donated by charities. When asked why he came to Germany, Lee said it was for freedom and a less stressful life. He didn't want to worry about making a living, as most Chinese people do every day. With only a vocational education and no family connections, he felt he had no chance of earning a decent income in China. And despite his family's objections to his decision to go abroad, he remained determined. The interviewer commented that Lee's attitude seemed to be taking advantage of the German government's welfare system. Lee clarified that he had sought asylum to seek democracy and freedom. He had been questioned by police in mainland China after arriving in Germany for posting videos on his Douyin account, showing people how to escape China and smuggle themselves into Germany. His channel quickly grew to 9,000 subscribers before it was banned, and the police contacted his family several times, suggesting he had some kind of confrontation with the government. When asked about other Chinese people he knows in Germany, Li mentioned that about 70% of those seeking asylum are fraudulent applicants, mainly motivated by financial gain. He rarely meets anyone younger than himself, and observes many Arabs and Turks in Germany with German passports. But he does not want one, only a long-term residence permit that would allow him to return to China. This requires at least 5 years in Germany and passing a B1 language exam, which can be studied for free in state schools. When asked what would happen if he stayed in Germany as a refugee without working, Li explained that the welfare office has an employment center that actively helps people find suitable job opportunities. If someone isn't working, they check in every few months. But if someone has been in Germany for 4 or 5 years and continues to turn down suitable job offers, their refugee allowance can be stopped to encourage them to look for work for a while. If they decide to stop working, the allowance can be resumed. Li says that if someone really does take a break for a few years, it's not too difficult to get back to work, because jobs in Germany are not overly strenuous. He appreciates that the welfare office in Germany is quite understanding. For example, if you run out of money to live on within a month, you can contact them and they will advance you money. When asked about his work history in China, Li said that he dropped out of vocational school before graduating and started working at the age of 16, earning 2,800 RMB, about 360 euros, for 12-hour days. Now, working 4 days a week, he can earn the same amount. He considers himself lucky because he did not have to face oppressive working conditions or unpaid wages in China. He is now able to save some of his earnings and send money back to his parents. When asked about his friends in China and their perceptions of his move abroad, Li revealed that they also work around 12 hours a day and earn around 5,000 RMB, around 650 euros. They lead busy lives, often playing mobile games and wasting time after work. They generally follow their parents' wishes because they have never experienced life outside their immediate surroundings, and many have never traveled outside their province. They have no strong opinions about life in Germany, lack the courage to leave, and are content with their current situation. Finally, when asked about his future plans, Li said that he had originally dreamed of buying a house and settling down in Germany. However, after seeing houses nearby for around 1 million euros, he has given up on this idea. Instead, he plans to save money and return to China after obtaining a long-term residence permit, with the aim of buying a house and a car before he turns 30 and living comfortably on the interest from his savings. Li's views and actions reflect those of some Chinese immigrants living in Western countries. For them, the success of their asylum applications is not a priority because it doesn't affect their ability to enjoy the benefits available to them. While some express gratitude to Li for sharing his story, others criticize him for exploiting humanitarian loopholes for personal gain. What do you think about this case? Please share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe to my channel.